Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the most must-see podcast here in the NJSSL. Welcome to The Cutting Reg. I'm joined today by a potential award winner as we have our NJSSL football awards for this season. He is a Cowboy. He, unfortunately, for his team, had a rough loss this past week, but they're looking to bounce back and prove why they are arguably the number one team in the history of the NJSSL. Please welcome our statistician on a mission who's going to give you the satisfaction that you need tonight on Merchant.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for having me, Reg. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So we'll kind of talk about on today's episode. We'll recap week 5, and then On's going to kind of lead us through some of the interesting stats from the season, some of the big talking points. As now we have our season has come to a close. On I guess before anything, how certainly your team has had a lot of success this season. How would you say this season kind of compared to previous seasons of NJSSL football?
I think as a group, we've all gotten better. This sport specifically is everyone's really involved on the team. So I think compared to season 1, we've all, as a collective group, just gotten better and more competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think football, unlike basketball, is a little bit harder to kind of play on like a more regular basis, right? Because you need a lot of guys for it. So I mean, I think that now that we're playing together regularly every year, it's only you're only going to see improvement between guys on a year by year basis. So it's definitely a good observation. Just generally speaking, like any guys that stood out to you this year who really hadn't made a name for themselves previously.
I mean, not to me personally. Like even like some guys that are definitely more involved in the league. Some of them did better than expected. I mean, Ayan. Really happy to see Ayan be heavily involved in their offense. He makes a big impact. Definitely Heather. You can honestly argue that Heather is one of the best players, period, in the league. Right?
Could definitely be most improved for sure.
I mean, he's
And
practically.
he was good to begin with. He's just like he definitely was like a top player this year, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put like a number on it, but you can argue that he's like top 10.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you wouldn't even, he's doing everything, and it's really like there's guys faster than him, but there's really only like a handful of guys faster than him, and most of the guys that are faster than him aren't better than him. So there's only really a handful of guys that are actually faster and better, but
for sure. Must be all that police training coming in handy.
yeah, I mean, he's the type of player though that if he was out of shape, he would still be good.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that for sure, for sure. Well, certainly. Speaking of Heather, let's kind of just run through some of the games that we, or like the 3 games that we had this past week, and I guess we can start off actually with the Texans game because that was the most interesting game, I guess, from this past week. Texans versus the 49ers. 49ers, after much struggle throughout the season, finally string together a solid offensive game. Defense was definitely better than previously, but still had left a little bit to be desired. But overall, probably this was their best game all season. They finally got a win. Continues the streak of no team going winless in the NJSSL. And as when we get to the other game, we'll continue. We'll see that the other end of that streak also broke. But what were your thoughts, kind of watching this game and looking back at it?
It was a really good game. I think like it was a fun game to watch. What was the final score?
I think it was 21-13, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean it felt like a really close game the whole time.
Yeah.
Um,
It was interesting because I think it was like 21-6 or something like that, and like right towards the end, like the Texans kind of scored and then got the onside kick. It was
yeah,
wild.
that was pretty insane. I wish it would have been interesting if the rules made more sense and they got the ball at like the 40 instead of the 20. They probably
Yeah,
would have. Yeah, that would have been insane. But overall, the game was good. It was really efficient. Both offenses were moving for the most part. The Niners obviously had a lot more offense than
Hmm.
the Texans. But it was just kind of like it was great to see that like it was just ZJ. If his first look wasn't there, dump off. He'll take 5 yards from like a pass instead, or he just ran it. I mean, probably had one of the best games for anybody in the season, quarterback wise.
Yeah,
170 yards and 2 passing yards and only 2 incompletions, 13 for 15. It was really solid. Uh,
yeah, absolutely.
Texans wise, I mean, they got like a huge chunk of yards at the end, um, but they were okay. They I think they just need to have a better game plan next time.
Yeah, and hopefully they will. I mean, I think they definitely are still a strong team. You can't take anything away from them. Definitely big shout outs to Heather Abbas and of course, as usual, Lior as well. Always playing a strong effort for the Texans. And I think this, like you said, best game I think we saw out of ZJ this entire season. And I think also Zunair had a pretty solid game. At least he had, stats wise, not so solid, but he definitely made some big catches and had some big first down plays. So definitely a good job altogether for the 49ers. And they look uh, have some momentum going into the playoffs. Um, let's talk about the Giants and the Patriots. So this was a relatively one-sided game with a final score of 27-7. This was the second out of 5 games for the Giants to have had their number one pick, Shahrukh Naqvi. And Shahrukh now on the Giants is 1-1 for the games that he's there. Rather, the Giants are 1-1 for the games that he's there. And their one win was against a very underwhelming, undermanned 49ers team that didn't have ZJ that day. It's a big loss for the Giants, and it gives the Patriots a lot of momentum. They take the number 3 spot after this win. Watching this game, what were your thoughts on both of these teams and how the guys played?
Um, so at the beginning of the game, it was super entertaining because it was going back and forth, and it was like good offense, and everybody was making big plays, and then just after maybe the second or third drive, it was just the Giants just never adjusted. It felt like the Patriots just kept doing the same thing over and over to them, and the Giants just never adjusted.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, it's good blocking by Urtaza. He definitely made a difference. Um, but you could just see that the Patriots are just way more prepared than the Giants were.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think there was one big 39-yard rushing touchdown from Meeson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Uh, and that was, I mean,
that was a
if
great
you're
play.
letting Meeson score 39-yard rushing touchdowns, you certainly need to reevaluate your defense. And that's I don't know. I mean, the Giants could very well see themselves out in the first round. They're going to be playing the number 4 seed, which is the Texans, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, yeah, which should be the Texans. So that'll be
With the Giants, did Urtaza play?
it's on Mumtaz.
Yeah, he did. He
Uh,
did play.
I don't. I no. I think he was. Yeah, he was there this game. Yep.
He did a bunch. Yeah, but they don't have Hamza. I think that also makes a pretty big difference because I mean he is impactful, on
Absolutely.
especially for they're not super deep at like coverage players. So not having Hamza, who's more of like he's a pretty good coverage player, that definitely affects. But they
100%.
have Shazan now, so Shazan should be able to fill some void.
Hopefully. I mean, definitely it's going to be interesting because there's just not a lot of chemistry that was able to be built because so many guys have been missing from this team. Got Hamza is down with injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. I know that their fourth or fifth round pick, Omar Shah, he's I think out for the rest of the season. So it's
Is Usad coming back? Because Usad only played against us, I think, and he just like he was just he was just tossing everybody around on our team. Uh,
I
so
mean,
so
hope.
he would probably make a pretty big impact too. I mean, we couldn't block him. We just had to run away from him. He just ran straight, and nobody could do anything.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully for their sake, he will be back. But I'm not sure what he's up to or where he is. But I should put him right next to Shark on that top disappointments list for not showing up. But we'll see what happens come playoffs round one, which is going to be this Sunday, live from Heavenly Farms in East Brunswick. Um, but yeah, so certainly Giants have a lot to look to get figured out. Patriots are looking strong. I think Patriots. I don't know about you, but I feel like they definitely are going to be a potential championship team. I think they certainly have the ability to win. Um, what do you? I mean, certainly they'll likely have to go through a Cowboys team that is not looking to give them the victory. But just what do you think of that potential matchup?
Um, I think it would be good. I mean, we like. I mean, we don't mind any team really. But they're a good team to play against. I think, I mean, you could say that one team is more likely to win it than the other, but I think every team has a fair shot. I think the Niners were really the only team that didn't seem like they could get figured out, and then now they're looking significant. Now I think it's anybody's chance at this point.
100%, 100%. No, yeah, I think that'll be like the most interesting game. I think that we might see in the playoffs though would be a Patriots Cowboys game. I think that'll be really close. I can go either way on any given day. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll see. Speaking of the Cowboys, we'll move on to our last game from this past week, which is the Cowboys and the Falcons. And this, I don't think, went the way that a lot of people were thinking it was going to go. A final score of 21, no, 20, sorry, 20-3 in favor of the Falcons. Certainly, this was, the Cowboys were 4-0 going into this game. They were looking to finish off the season 5-0. Unfortunately, were unable to do so. The Falcons get a huge boost at halftime with the returning Vali Mirza, who missed the first half, but came back and made huge plays. Had I think his fourth pick six of the season, and then on top of that, big plays from Adi Shah and from Razak Garachivala to get rushing touchdowns. Adi had 94 yards rushing with a touchdown, and Raza Garachivala had 57 yards rushing with a touchdown as well. Both had definitely big plays there. Um, I mean, you and I both played in this game. It was definitely a very gritty game. That's for sure. Thoughts, I guess, on from your end.
It was honestly, it was really shocking that we couldn't pull flags. Um, Offensively, I mean, we can have a conversation about how our offense wasn't moving. I think the first few drives we kind of just went in with the wrong mentality. We were just kind of like, all right, we didn't have a game plan. We were just like, all right, run whatever routes, and just we started chucking it around. Um, Very annoying the fact that Hussein had a 60-yard bomb on the first play of the game.
Yeah,
All
that
back,
should not have been called back. That got
look
called
back,
back
he was 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
well behind the
Uh,
line. Oh god.
I mean, if you were to just do like if you were to just take one play out and put another play in, you would say it still wouldn't have made a difference, but it probably would have made a
No, no, it definitely would have made a huge difference.
because
It definitely could have.
guys just ran the ball at that point, right? And then threw the ball 5 times the whole day, so it would have forced you guys to throw the ball a lot more. But it is what it is. I mean, there's been crazier misses. I don't know if there's been a crazier miss than that, but there have been other misses.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. The real reason we lost the game was because I would say there's like two huge plays that you guys ran through like six people's hands. Just nobody pulled a flag, and after that, we just we just were forcing things, throwing things in the air, just trying to push the ball down the field instead of taking our time. And then it is what it is at that point.
Yeah. I was gonna say the one thing that I thought was interesting, being kind of on the opposite side of it now, is you know, for some reason when you're undefeated, and you are want to start to be down in a game, for some reason there's this mentality that like we're down, we need to start kind of pulling out all the options and like score really quickly to get back into it. Because when we played when we played the Patriots, that was kind of our mentality too, and we thought we had that game in the bag until we went down, and then it just got worse and worse. And I think basically the a similar thing happened with you guys this week, where once you guys went down, it just it just kind of started just going more and more downward spiral.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I would also give credit that so you guys made the big plays. I don't think you guys were. I don't think it was there was any like consistent, well put together drive by either team really.
Sure.
But you guys had these huge plays, and then you guys do have a good defense. I mean, it's definitely if you were to look at all the defenses, you can probably argue one or two, number one or two,
Yeah.
best defense in the league. Um, I mean, even without Mehdi, which is that's like the wild part, right? You guys have Mehdi on the field, you guys still have probably one of the better defenses. You guys have coverage at every level, right? You guys have great defensive linemen. You guys have good coverage in the middle. You guys have good coverage in the backfield. So
Yeah, yeah, and actually, props to Zaman Gazmi to be the only guy to exploit the middle so many times in one game.
yeah,
But ultimately, that also led to almost like
yeah,
a down going because I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but Vali Mirza eventually saw that coming, and that's where he had the pick six. So good job, Vali. Speaking of Vali and his pick sixes and his excellent work, let's pull up the stats. Let's pull up what things look like this past season. I'm going to share my screen right here, and I'll let you kind of lead how you want to go
yeah.
over it.
Let's start with if you want to go on the team totals first.
Team totals. Yeah, one second. Team totals. There it is.
All right. It's pretty zoomed in on my screen. Maybe if I make it portrait mode, I can see everything. Does that change anything?
Um, well, for me, I can see all the way, and I think the viewers can see all the way from A all the way to N, going across, and 1 to 17 all the way down.
Okay. All right. So I'll just kind of highlight NJSSL in general, like what the average games and average teams are playing like.
Hmm.
So the average team is putting up 182 yards of offense a game, right? So the league as a whole is putting up 182 yards. So that's what you're looking at to be above or below average. We've played 30 games total this season. The average quarterback is throwing about 107 yards a game,
Hmm.
and less than a touchdown a game. So it's not looking so hot. And then even in terms of total scoring, teams are only putting up 1.3 touchdowns a game, 11.6 points a game. So larger field was definitely tougher, and I think the condensed teams also made it tougher. I personally thought going into the season it was just going to be large amounts of scoring. I was
Hmm.
definitely wrong. Um, so like just to compare this season to last season, um, we threw a total of 25 passing touchdowns in 30 games, and we threw 38 interceptions. So we threw 25 to passing touchdowns and 38 interceptions. If I pull up last year, we actually threw more touchdowns than we threw interceptions last season. Um, I don't know what I would attribute it to, but I would think it's probably the spread out of talent and
Hmm.
the shorter field, obviously. Because last year we threw, was it 94 touchdowns and 79 interceptions as a league.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think so. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly to your point. Like one, we have better, like more talent and less teams to spread it over, and two is there's an extra guy on both sides of the field, and the field depth changed, but I feel like most guys still kind of focus on the middle of the field, when they're passing the ball, and so yeah, I feel like that accounts for some of it.
yeah, I mean, we all got better. I think just you have to really have consistent offense to move down the field or good defense on creating turnovers. So
Hmm.
that leads me to my next point, where you look at the teams that have the most interceptions or sacks or good defense, they're the top three teams, right? So, um, Patriots and Cowboys had 8 interceptions on the season. Falcons had 11, and those are the top three teams right there. If you go to, so I'm looking at column U.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, and then if you look at sacks, also right, Cowboys were number one, Falcons were number two. So that defense is really impactful on winning games. If you have a good defense, you're winning. If you look at how many tackles you're making, so the top two tacklers, Cowboys, Falcons, those are the top two teams as well. The teams that didn't do so hot, you see, Cowboys, they only had 11 tackles. 49ers had 15. Those that's an indicator right there of how much, um, you know, how well teams are doing just based off of their defensive stats. I think defense is a bigger indicator this year than offense has been of how good
100%.
teams are.
100%. 100%. Big highlight here: 20 points in 5 games given up by the Falcons. That's pretty incredible. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen it that low um, for any team in the NJSL in football history.
Yeah,
What
I
else you got?
I don't have the stats for everybody else, but
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
yeah, I mean comparing it to the Niners who gave up 93, it's
Mhm.
a pretty big difference.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Amazing. So, uh, where do you want to go next?
I do kind of want to go to league leaders now.
Yeah.
So
So right now we got the passers, the rushers, and the receivers are a little bit in picture. So you just tell me where you want to who you want to talk about, and then we can talk about it. Oh, on. You still there? Uh oh, on. All right. So on merchant is he's having some technical difficulties. I think he might be texting me right about now to figure that out. But just kind of looking through it, some of the top passers in the league. Daha, we've got Ali Shah, we've got ZJ Hussein, ZM, Ken is on there too. I think the big thing to kind of look at, and I pointed this out before, your touchdown to interception ratio. Very few guys have more touchdowns than interceptions. Most guys seem to other than Ali Shah, most guys have more interceptions than touchdowns, with the exception of ZM, Zan Mumtaz, Adi, and Heather Abbas that have one and one each. Um, Pretty much everybody else has a lot more interceptions than they do touchdowns. Um, Definitely important to note Hussein, 3 TDs, 7 ints. As we expected, Hussein, not the best quarterback option, but was the best that the Cowboys had to offer. So, certainly if they had a stronger quarterback and perhaps one less, guy to play the receiver position, that could have been the complete change, and they could have gone a 5-0 this season. Um, let's see, ZJ just like I said, struggling pretty much this season. Ken struggling. Daha did okay. I mean, he led the league in yards with 585. Nope, there he is.
sorry about
Yeah.
that.
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, so I was kind of just going on, talking a little bit about the passers, before while you're gone, but I can just edit that out and we can just kind of go through what you're gonna go through.
Yeah, I mean, I think first few callouts, obviously Taha had a great season. Um, Ali Shah had a great season because what he did that other quarterbacks didn't do is he didn't throw interceptions. He
Mm-hmm.
only got picked off by one man twice, Usad Merchant, and those are the only mistakes he really made. I mean, I think against the Giants, he was so calm and collective that he just, waited, and just dumped it off or got the right pass off. And
If
yeah,
I'm
I was
if I'm not mistaken, I believe Shah and Sharuk both had a bet going that whoever wins that game, the other guy will have to provide them dinner for a whole month. So so Sharuk, it's unfortunate that you're going to be paying for Shah's dinner for a whole month, bud. Next time, don't be so cocky, man. All right.
I
But
don't know how true that is, but all right. And
it's a
then
rumor that's
the
going
other
around.
thing to point out is ZJ. I mean, he started his first game, so he only played 4 games. He started his first game. He had 90 yards, which, if you remember, when I was talking about averages, the average is 107 yards a game for
Hmm.
a quarterback in this league. Um, and ZJ threw 90 something his first game with 3 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Since that game, he threw
Four.
410 yards over 3 games, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Both that's very very high compared to the rest of the league. But it didn't feel that way because they were losing a
They
lot.
kept losing.
I mean, he led the league in yards per game, and his completion percentage also led the league, which gave him actually the best QBR at the end of the season. Which honestly, I don't think anybody actually like expected when you actually saw the games.
Yeah,
But he actually ended the season really, really good compared to the beginning of the season, especially his final 2 games. He went off, and same thing for yards per game rushing. I mean, if he played 5 games and performed his average at the end of those 5 games, he would have led the league in yards for passing and rushing. I mean, he so yeah. I mean, that could give the Niners some faith this week. I mean, and
yeah,
also after a really long season, their line got like 3 or 4 sacks this past game. Um, So definitely very different compared to the rest of their season. So there's some interesting stats. Abbas Nathani went crazy. I think I want to say out of anybody that had a significant amount of rushes, he had the most yards per rush. Um, him and Adi. Um, so Abbas had a great season. I think he was one of the league leaders in all-purpose yards.
hmm
And then Adi, who was really close to having scored in every single way. He threw a touchdown, he ran a touchdown, he caught a touchdown, and he kicked a field goal. All he really had to do was return
pick
one of
six.
the 2 picks he had. So he was really close to scoring in every single way possible. Um, yeah, I think those are the main highlights I have. Tackling wise, Heather went crazy with 22 tackles. But you did see there's a lot more spread out with the overall tackling numbers. I think there's some good team tackling overall. Everybody had a good amount of tacklers. Sack wise, I think it was a lot harder to get sacks this season compared to last season. Seemed like the numbers were a lot higher. There's a lot more people averaging over a sack a game, or
Yeah,
at least around. There's a few guys averaging above a sack a game.
yeah.
Um,
And here we only got at one guy basically averaging above a sack per game, and that's Cowboys' own Akbar Rizvi.
yeah.
And who definitely actually big shout out to all four guys that are the top four sackers. Akbar Rizvi, Razan Merchant, who's been killing it for the Falcons. Heather Boss, as we mentioned already, and of course on yourself, all league leaders in sacks this season.
Yeah, if Akbar wasn't getting so many sacks, I might have been able to get a few more.
That's true. It's a great point. That is
Yeah.
definitely a great point.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think those are. I mean, you could even call out a few other people. You know, Hussein's literally been doing everything for our team. Irtaza
Mhm.
has had some monstrous games. Gossam has also just been. I mean, I think it's like hard to call out every single person since we've been seeing them do it
So
all
many times. Yeah.
season. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit it's a little difficult to just go through and call out every single
Yeah.
person who's been doing really well. But yeah,
One
I
hundred
mean,
percent.
definitely.
Um.
And then if Hamza wasn't hurt, he could have probably also been
Yeah.
towards the top. He ended up fifth, but he could have probably ended up even higher if he played another game.
Go for receiving.
Um, yeah. I mean, he ended with 180, and the league leader was 244. He could have easily had one more really good game, and been the league leader this past season. Basso showing up. Basso had a great game this past game. So
Mhm.
some good performances.
Definitely some big performances. One thing I think is interesting to note in all-purpose yards, Abbas Nathani, right up there at number three in all-purpose yards,
Yep.
and Wally at number five. aside from those two guys, you pretty much have three quarterbacks who have the benefit of having like passing yards plus rushing yards involved.
No, no, that's not how it works.
Oh,
All-purpose
can
yards are
explain.
just receiving and rushing
Oh, it's just receiving. Oh, then why are there so many quarterbacks at the top?
because all they do is run.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. So it's really kind of the rushing yards from Taha Hussein and Ali Shah. So definitely very interesting to see so many quarterbacks up there. Just kind of looking at all of these different stats, you know, who who I'll tell you in my mind what kind of stands out to me as the like top three possibilities for MVP. And I know the awards kind of already went out, but definitely you have to consider Veli because you see his name at the top of both sides, offensively and defensively, leading the league in interceptions and pick sixes. You got to see Shaw as well; he's right up there as well, both in in interceptions. And then both Heather and Hussein Abadi are also guys you got to think about, given that they're leading their teams in sacks. Bully also number three in sacks. I mean, sorry, not sacks, tackles. So it can really go in any direction here. I think really it could be any of these guys that are very much deserving of the award. Um, you know, I don't want you to ruin anything for anyone, but is there any of those guys that you'd say would be less deserving than any of the other of those four dudes to be as the most likely guy to win MVP?
Less deserving. I mean, I can tell you who's definitely sticks out. It's definitely Wally. Uh, Wally, it's wild how much impact he's made, and some of the games he doesn't even play the whole game.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, he's clearly the most impactful
yeah,
player this past
that's
season.
that's definitely a great point. I mean, two of the games he played only one half. The both this past week against the Cowboys
And
and
he
the week
scored in
before,
both of them in pick sixes, which is
and fixes in both of them. Yeah, so a huge impact that he makes. And honestly, I feel like his team, like the Falcons as a whole, like the moment he comes at halftime, the second half, the Falcons are ready to roll. And I think in this past week, all 20 of their points were in the second half. I think against the against the Giants, we were up 7-0, and then I think the final score was like 27-0 or something like that, or 20-0. So the rest of those points in the second half. So definitely Veli makes a huge impact. He's definitely my choice for MVP, not just because he's my captain, but also because he's my captain. So inshallah, we look forward to him winning that championship on the 28th of June at Astana Azera at the official football banquet ceremony. Cool. Uh, what other highlights would you want to go over in the stats?
I mean, we could look at overall fantasy leaders, so that's like a good indicator of how impactful a player was on their team. So you see, everyone at the top is everyone that we've been talking about. You know, you
Yeah,
have Wally having a slight lead over Taha. I mean, quarterbacks obviously, if you're a good quarterback, you make a really good impact,
100.
fantasy wise,
I
getting
think
over the yards, and then you see Heather, you see Adi,
yeah, yeah.
all these guys are at the top.
The big thing I feel like you got to point out is Adi. I mean, Adi was I can't remember if he was maybe a fourth or a fifth round pick, but he's right up here. He's right up there with Hussein, who was like a first round pick. Heather was the captain. ZJ and Ali Shah and were all basically like top picks. So definitely a big shout out to Adi and I guess Irtaza as well. Maybe even Nathani too. All these guys were basically like mid round picks, and they're kind of hanging right up there with some of the first round pick guys. Despite the fact that I guess Valiant Taha and Ali Shah are like significantly higher than everybody else that comes after them in fantasy points.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
is
Adi
huge.
went late. Even if you look at Ayan probably went in like the seventh or eighth round, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I think like Zan Mumtaz was in the second round, so certainly like all these guys, like Ken, Ayan, Adi, Irza all went after him. Shahrukh first round pick, way at the bottom here, but again he's only been in two games,
he only
so
played
I don't
two.
know how does that kind of play into things
I
because
mean,
Maybe's right there too.
yeah, it's a total summation. Um, it's just how much they did in those games. I mean, he averaged 16 fantasy points in those two games, so he probably would
Yeah,
have had somewhere around. What's
like
16
80 or
times
so.
5? 80.
Yeah, 80.
So he would have been right there at the top if he played at that pace.
All right, all right, all right. Awesome, awesome. So certainly they're definitely playing, their to their worth. And same with Ali Bungash goes right there in that same description, right? Like he only played 2 games, so definitely playing to their worth. Then after that, does seem to be more guys that have been playing, throughout the rest of the season. Um, Crazy. So what on kind of going a little bit off of the stats here, is there anybody in your mind, had a much better season in seasons 1 or 2 and just kind of, fell asleep this past season?
I was actually thinking about that you would ask me a question like that. So I did try to see if there's any. I mean, I would say
There's a couple of guys in
the
my mind, but
the
I'll let you go
saddest
first.
thing, the saddest thing that happened this season is not seeing Mehdi play the whole season. It would have been really nice to see how much he could have done if he was healthy and played the whole season. Um,
Was he on the Buccaneers last year?
yeah, yeah,
He was, right? That's what I thought. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I didn't think about it. Buccaneers had a solid team last year. Yeah.
yeah. We had a great team. I think he scored like 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns on you guys.
Oh yeah, easily.
Um, but I mean, I wouldn't say anybody disappointed. Um, Everybody that was supposed to be good did like at least somewhat of what they could, or at least they had some big plays. I mean, Shubber I seen them have all have good plays. I mean, Meesum played a lot better than I would have thought.
Yeah. He definitely blew out any expectations of him.
Who Meesum?
Yeah. Like, I don't think a lot of people expected him to play very well, and then all of a sudden he's
Yeah.
got 2 interceptions. He's got a couple of touchdowns on the season. He could definitely be. I guess did he play last year in football or the year before? Is he a rookie of the year
Um,
candidate?
I don't remember. Meesum just kind of like fades into the background. You don't really know where he is at times. He's always there though. He's
Pretty
always there.
accurate.
Um, you could say I'm definitely higher on Ken than I would say most others are, but I think the team just wasn't all there together, and I
Hmm.
feel like that really um, impacted their game plan. So like Ken has a crazy cannon of an arm,
Yeah,
but if you're not coming in as a team and you know dictating when is it the time to force a ball, throw a ball, or check a ball, like is everybody on the same page with their routes. I don't think the Giants had that for the majority of the season.
yeah,
Obviously,
absolutely.
because you had their like top 3 picks always out or whatever.
Yeah.
So he definitely had a tough season. He still moved the ball really well.
Hmm.
Zen's been hurt. Zen Mumtaz, so it'd been nice to see him get it going a little more. But I mean that's really all I can really say.
No, that's fair. I mean, I certainly injuries aside, injuries definitely kind of give guys and or take away opportunities from guys to do really well. One thing I thought was shocking, and I think it's for no other reason other than this team just has a wealth of talent. But I think I was expecting, especially based off of last season, I was expecting more statistics wise from both Professor and Yaffa. Like I was really expecting Yaffa to like kind of come away with a potential like offensive player of the year or MVP, and I think he maybe did miss it. He missed this past week. He might have missed another game on top of that. But I feel like outside of that first game where he had that huge touchdown, I feel like he was just kind of like non-existent the rest of the season. And again, it could very well just be because there's a wealth of talent on that team, that he's not needed to necessarily be a top player. But so it's hard. It's going to be interesting. I mean, it's hard to say if it was because of that or just he didn't do as well this season as he did previously. Um,
Um, I mean, really, he only. I mean, I tried to keep track of all the targets possible. I mean, he really only got 7 targets on the season. You know,
mhm.
so it's not a crazy amount, and he was still ninth in the league in yards, with the little amount of you know um, looks that he got. Um, and
That's
then
fair.
Professor was what, seventh? Let me see. Professor still ended up seventh and off of 6 catches. You know,
Yeah, he still ended up being like the top. I guess this is probably sorted by yards, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it is sorted
yeah.
by
Because
total
I feel
yards.
like every one of Professor's catches was like a 30-yard pass.
Yeah,
Because that's what he does. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I mean, I every time he caught the ball, he made a huge impact on the game.
yeah,
I just I certainly I think obviously once you win something like Offensive Player of the Year, the expectations for you go up a lot more. Um,
yeah. I mean, it's hard.
he
It's
did
hard
great.
to stay consistent. Um, I mean, there's so many guys on that team. You know, I mean, I personally think that as a team, Mustafa probably uh, took the heat of it because we didn't really make plays for him.
Hmm.
He really all his catches and all his yards was because he just got open and he was always there.
Yeah,
Um, so we that's definitely been tough for him.
yeah.
Really big on Asad Bakari as well. Asad Bakari,
He's not. I saw him down here. Oh, there he is. Here.
he's talented. I mean, I've practiced with him enough to know that um, Hussein and him just need a few. Like it's just they're like it always feels like they're just one game away from like going crazy.
Hmm.
Um, but his talent's there for sure. And I mean, you still have we have so many guys getting the ball. The ball's spread out pretty evenly, like compared to most teams where it's really two guys that have the majority of the catches or three guys that have majority of catches. We have like 5 or 6 guys getting a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
catches.
exactly.
Like you have Yafa who had 5 receptions, and then you have Usad Merchant who had 5 receptions. You have Zaman who has 4 receptions, right? You have
Yeah,
Usad with a few
definitely
receptions.
spread very well.
Yeah, so it's the ball's going everywhere. So it's hard for somebody to statistically go crazy, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, there's only 5 games. I guess last season you also got to think about that there were 7 games last season, so I think that makes a difference too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shorter field. I mean, let's look at what were if we look at the yardage for last season. I mean, yeah, I mean, so Professor had 294 yards receiving last season, so it's
For sure.
significant difference. I mean, if you're, yeah,
And it's only
over
and like I said,
seven.
it's 2 less games too, right? So you chat for all those things, and honestly, his stats are probably almost right up there. But definitely a big shout out to Qasim. I feel like Qasim kind of struggled last season. I think he played really well this season comparatively. Now with the Patriots, he eventually developed like a better offensive line, and eventually developed and certainly had a better quarterback than he had last season. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
so
he had 20 targets, so
yeah,
he uh, he did plenty with the 20 targets that he
yeah,
got. So
he made the most of it too.
yeah,
Mhm. For sure, for sure. Awesome. So, I hope for anybody watching, we hope that you did participate in the voting for the awards. Again, the award ceremony is on June 28th at Astana Azera. Inshallah, it will be a great event. We're also going to have our soccer draft for the NJSL, so looking forward to that. Onward, any final thoughts going into, I guess just real quick, going into this upcoming week? We've got both of us are sitting pretty on the sidelines with the bye week. As the Falcons are the number 1 seed, the Cowboys number 2 seed, both at 4-1. We've got the 3 versus 6 game, which is going to be the Patriots and the 49ers, and then we got the 4 and 5 seeds going at it. That's going to be your Giants and your Texans, or your Texans and your Giants rather. It can go either way. I'm not sure if On Merchant is with us. I think there he is. He's back. He's back. All right. So, what do you think about the Patriots 49ers game? And just follow that up with the other one.
Patriots 49ers. It's gonna be really a test like that. This is right. So you're seeing the Patriots on a high, and you're seeing, hey, did the Niners just get an easy one and just snuck away, or are
Mhm.
they actually good? And I am expecting it to be high score. I think it will be a good high scoring game. Um, I'm gonna say that the Patriots have it together right now, so I'm gonna go with them. But I think it's gonna come down to a one score game.
Final score
Um,
prediction.
17, 17. I don't. Niners aren't even gonna kick a field goal. They never kick a field goal. So
17-14.
yeah, I'm gonna go 14, 14, 14, 17. 14,
17.
17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's definitely a accurate analysis. Yeah, I mean, I think if the Niners were playing the Texans or the Giants, I might give them the victory. But I think the fact that they're against the Patriots, who really have gotten it all together, they are ready to go to the championship. I'm giving this one to the Patriots. I think it'll also be a much closer game than it was the first time around. Um, but I am going to give it to the Patriots. I'm going to go with 21-14 on this one, and
You
I think
there?
the Patriots got that victory. Yeah, I think Shah's going to come out strong. He's going to come out, guns a blazing, and inshallah, I think I don't know. I don't know if the 49ers are going to be able to stop him.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then the next game
yeah.
is the Falcon. No, not the Falcons.
No,
It's
Giants, and Texans.
um. If Shojunkle's there, I got the Texans. Um, it's gonna be a good game if the Giants are actually game planning. If they're actually talking about what plays they're gonna run, if they're gonna actually communicate on defense, then I think it'll be a good game. But that's what the Giants were missing, and you can't really tell how good they are if they're not doing all those things because every other team in the league is doing that. Even if they're doing it bad, the rest of the teams are communicating and they they have some synergy on defense.
Hmm.
The Giants, if they get that together, they're then that's when we know who they actually are, right? Because you could see that there's a difference in the teams that have practice and the teams that haven't.
100%. No, 100% accurate. Accurate description of the Giants and their lack of synergy is a great term to use to describe them. I mean, I think they're, when you watch their games, they have to be very basic. Like they have to be very, by the book. It doesn't seem like they have any.
I feel the opposite. I feel like they're doing a lot. I feel like they're going. They're they're slinging the ball far. Um, I mean, I feel like they have good talent. They're able to do more than a lot of other teams, but I feel like they're not doing the simple stuff. They're not just doing
You
the.
think so? I mean, I mean, I feel like you're definitely right. They're not planning, but I feel like it's just like they're just going for like I don't know, like very like low energy play. Like I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it, but like it's just like it's very easy to read as a defense, like what they're going to do on offense. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Is that like there's no like they kind of make it obvious in a sense. At
Um,
least that's what it seemed like when we
uh,
were playing them.
I don't know if that's fair, but let's see. I mean, let's see what they do this Sunday.
Yeah,
I don't think it's that dramatic where it's like they're not good. I think they can beat any team in the league, and vice versa. Any team can beat them. But let's just see. I think it just if they're prepared, or even if you don't practice, as long as you guys are communicating well during the
yeah.
game, and you have some leadership. That's the important part. If you have some leadership that's saying this is what we're gonna do, this is how we need to do it, then that changes everything. That's really what.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they have that because so far, you know, I just don't think that they're gonna string that together. Because there's a lot of guys in there that have leadership mentality, and I don't know if they work well together when they have to listen to somebody else potentially being the leader.
I mean,
We'll
but then what? I mean, it is playoffs, and somebody's gonna say, "Hey, if we don't listen to each other, we're gonna lose," and then that's all it takes,
and
and they,
that's probably gonna that's probably what's gonna happen. But
then you got then you got the Giants in the finals.
we'll see. Inshallah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the Texans on this one too. Granted, they
Yeah,
are
I
coming
mean,
off
I
of a
think
couple of string of losses.
everybody would agree. It should be the Texans and the Patriots that win. I just think that either team could
Could pull it
easily.
off.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
I think this is probably the best matchup that the Giants could ask for, other than the 49ers potentially. I think this is the best matchup they could ask for because the Texans are just on a losing streak right now.
yeah, the three
Um,
three game losing streak,
yeah, but
3 games without Short Uncle. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So we'll see. I mean, I'm anticipating he's going to be back, but we'll have to wait and see. And if not, then I think Giants definitely have a shot. But I'm still going to go with the Texans because I've yet to see the Giants really. They're on like a 3 game losing streak of their own, I think. So, we'll see what happens. But it's the NJSL. Anything can happen. Thank you for your time, my friend, this evening. Sorry to keep you out late.
yeah,
And inshallah, we look forward to. I guess I won't see you this Sunday, maybe, but perhaps the following Sunday I will.
always
And
there.
inshallah, we look forward to seeing you all on NJSL Sunday. Until then, I'm Reg, signing off from the Cunning Reg, and inshallah, we'll see you guys real soon.